when they can hire an able-bodied person. They hire the child just because that they know that these children, in most of the situations, they work for no wages at all. But International Labour Organization report says even in the best of scenarios, these children are not contributing more than 20% to supplement the family incomes. But imagine that the context of the children with which Kailash is engaged, these children are working for no remuneration. These are forced to work and they are in debt bondage. These children are sold, bought and sold like animals.
How much does caste come into this? Because I know in one of the documentaries I was watching about Kailash's work, there was the issue of the fact that many of the people are from the untouchables class, as it's known.
Predominantly from the untouchables, the Dalits as they are called, and the tribals particularly. And
does that mean the governments ignore them because of that? I mean, is that a factor?
I think that
we have a president in India who is from the Dalit class.
I think that the most important issue is to address in our education plans and strategies the children who are hardest to reach. And my one most important appeal to the donor community, and especially I appreciate the resources that have been committed by Netherlands and Norway in particular, and now more recently by Gordon Brown. I want to ask these governments to put a rider with all the money that they are committing towards the Education for All initiative, towards the fast track initiative, which is being administered and anchored from the World Bank, that all their investments should be used with a rider, that this money should go to countries which are able to articulate and give visibility to the children who are hardest to reach. Unfortunately, out of 22 plans that we have reviewed within the fast track initiative up till now that have been submitted by the national governments, not a single plan has given visibility to identify, to make some effort to identify who are these children that are missing out of our schools, and in what condition and what are their special needs. So social exclusion is very normal because our plans are not geared to give visibility to them.
Well, Dr. Joshi, we've got to take a very short break here. When we get back, we'll be also talking with Kailash Satyarthi about his work there in India. So stay with us and our discussion on child slave labor continues.
Al Jazeera breaking the news.
He went to his death at dawn.
Celebrations on.
Welcome back. We're discussing the issue of child slave labor with Kailash Satyarthi, the chairperson of the Global March Against Child Labor, who joins us from New Delhi, and Dr. Sudhanshu Joshi, the executive director of the International Center on Child Education and Labor. And Kailash, glad to welcome you in from New Delhi. I want to ask first what raids you've undertaken. We saw at the beginning of the show some of the work you do where you actually go in and yourself take part in freeing the children and families from slave labor. What have you been doing recently and how has it been going?
We keep on receiving information from the parents who lost all the hope with the police or with the government officials, and if they come to know about myself and my organization, they come and approach. So only 3-4 weeks ago, we have raided a factory, an embroidery factory in New Delhi, right in the capital of India, and we have rescued about 30 children, very young, tiny children, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, and they were trafficked from their native villages in Bihar and brought over to Delhi, where they were confined to workplace and never allowed to go back home. The youngest one was the 6-year-old child who was not allowed to cry for his mother. When he used to miss his mother in the night, and the employer used to see him, beated him like anything. So he lost all the emotions. He wanted to go back and meet his mother first, but he was trying hard how to cry and how to smile. Because while he was working here as slave labor, bonded labor, he was not allowed to do so.
Kailash,
you also was the situation. I'm giving just one example.
Right, and we saw in the video clip at the beginning of the show how a man pulled a gun on you when you were freeing the girls from the circus. Now, how have you? I mean, obviously it is dangerous. I know the mobs, the gangs are involved in a lot of the child labor and slavery. How have you managed to avoid any disaster so far? We saw the police didn't seem to do very much when the man pulled the gun out.
I believe in God, I believe in truth, I believe in the people and their love. That is the only safeguard for me, because normally these people are very powerful. They are connived and connected with the local police and sometimes with the politicians, and sometimes politicians themselves are the factory owners who hire children in slavery. So it's very, very dangerous. I lost 2 of my colleagues. One was shot dead and one was beaten to death, and most of us were beaten up severely several times and escaped. So this is an ongoing thing in our work.
Well, Kailash, I want to show our viewers another short clip of your work. This was on a PBS documentary about modern-day heroes, and you were recognized here in this documentary series that was narrated by Robert Redford.
Each family has just a few minutes to decide whether to trust Kailash and leave behind the only life they've known, or stay at the quarry. Fortunately, many of the slaves have come to trust Natanya, the spy, for she shared their hardships for months.
यहाँ हम लोगों को साल में हर दिन. The people here had to work 12 hours a day, every day of the year. If there was a truck to load, they had to work 18 or 19 hours. And anyone who so much as dared to talk out of turn would be beaten up by men with clubs and abused horribly.
Kailash, there you were saying about the trust that had been built because of Natanya, the woman who'd been a spy among the villagers. How much value is there overall in getting someone into the crowd first to help build their trust, so that at least they know they're going to something better, and that you're not going in there and going to send them to somewhere else that's also slavery?
We try that some of the former slave laborers and bonded children become their own liberators and leaders eventually. And it's very easy for them to build trust with the existing bonded laborers. They speak their language, they live in the same manner. So it's better to find the people who can work for them. So that's why we have set up 3 centers in India to train the former child slaves as their own liberators and activists and leaders in their communities. And they are very, very powerful. They are very impressive in their work to build the trust and to get the truth.
Let me bring in Dr. Sudhanshu Joshi, I have here in the studio with me. And Sarah, let me ask you, what is the best mechanism for stopping people slipping back into slavery?
I think the most important thing is to recognize that what are the circumstances from which these children come, and the government should have special mechanisms in the EFA plans. One of the most important thing is to recognize that already there is tons of money which is flowing to Ministry of Social Welfare, Ministry of Rural Development. There are hundreds of schemes for the poverty reduction. But what is required is that how within the ongoing schemes and different lined departments of the ministries, that how there can be harmonization of work, how there can be kind of policy coherence, and also in practice, because it would not be very difficult for the government within the same budgets with which they operate at this time to be able to provide some form of cash transfers to the families to ensure that their children attend 90% and above full-time school.
Right.
And that's the only way to move forward, and every single government has to recognize this. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Women and Child Development, they are working so disjointed that no one has clue. And similarly, we have seen that between the various UN agencies, the World Bank and the IMF is responsible for the poverty reduction strategies. ILO is responsible for the elimination of child labor. UNDP is also working on poverty reduction. But so between these agencies, how they can harmonize together, and coordinate their work.
Well, let's get in Sharif, who's been on the line, waiting on the line from Saudi Arabia with a question. Go ahead, Sharif. Go ahead, Sharif.
Hello.
Hi. Ask a question, please, Sharif.
Hello.
Hi, go on, Sharif.
Yeah. Can you ask this one to guy there?
Yeah.
Is that in the future, in the... Hello?
Yeah, go on, Sharif.
Yeah, this... because this in India, backward for Bihar, and suppose there this other country deep there. In the future, in